mode.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Brown Bag Lunch Training Series from Family Voices of California. This is a training series on health and policy topics affecting children and youth with special health care needs. Our presentations are geared towards families, professionals, parent-to-parent staff, youth, and anyone else who's interested. Today's topic is on impacting legislators. Discuss new research with Tony Anderson, Executive Director from the ARC of California. We welcome Tony from the ARC. A few notes before we begin about the technology. Unless you're sure that you have a headset with a microphone that allows you to speak through your computer, you'll need to call in or type in your questions. You can find the call-in number either from your confirmation email, or while you're connected, you can go to the audio menu, select Use Telephone, and it'll provide you with a dial-in, access code, and audio pin. And traditional toll charges do apply to that number, unfortunately. But if you're going that route, please remember to enter your audio pin in. And if you have any additional technical difficulties, you can always call GoToWebinar directly at 1-800-263-6317, or you can send me, Tara Robinson, chat question. Owing to feedback issues, we generally have everyone on mute from our end, so there will be a few points during the presentation when we will welcome your questions, and there are a few ways you can ask questions. So if you have a question you want to ask and you either are connected by the phone or you have microphone on your computer, you can select the little hand icon located in the control panel. There's a little small column to the left of the menu, and it's a little hand with an arrow. If you click that, then we know you want to be unmuted and have a comment or a question. And then if for some reason you have any trouble being heard, you can always type in a question in the questions box, and I will be reading those out to the presenter later too. And so, oh, and one question that everybody always asks is, yes, we will be emailing a copy of the presentation out afterwards. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tony and have him get started.
Okay, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tara. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to your group, and thank you to Family Voices of California. I'm Tony Anderson, Executive Director of the ARC California. I've put this presentation together. So we've been looking at the different ways that we could try to be more and more effective every year, and what Tara and I looked at was a study that was done by the Congressional Management Foundation, and there were a lot of things in there that we thought might be helpful for people to sort of mull over and be exposed to. So I'm going to cover that, and we'll stop for questions and comments there. And then we have a series of other tips that we present from the ARC to our advocates and to anybody who's in the advocacy area, and we'll cover that as well. I've got way more slides than I have time, so I'll just go right into it and see how far we go into that. So the study that we're talking about is called, it's not moving over, huh?
There you go.
Communicating with Congress. How Capitol Hill is coping with the surge in citizen advocacy. Really what they're looking at is the technology today and how it's how the advocacy community is using the technology to communicate to members of Congress, and how people, staffers in particular, what they do with that, how they respond to that, and how they communicate back. This particular study here is online. They've got 4 studies in this area, and really recommend them. Good stuff here. So, and I've put here the link that you can go to the website and get the report. So the overall in the study, the first piece of that was that there were 350 staff people who were asked a variety of questions. The report itself is long. It's about 40 pages and stuff, but it has nice graphics, nice graphs to help express what their findings were. So I recommend it again. So anyway, 350 staff from more than 200 House and Senate offices. The and look at the postal versus the email, sort of the trend over the years. What's interesting is that about just over 10 years ago, right, the pieces of mail that was going through, there's about 50 million pieces of mail that was coming through to members of Congress and to their staff, basically, and about 10 million emails at that time. And as you can see, you'd expect, I think you might expect a big drop in the postal email around the time of the 9/11, the anthrax and all of that, where postal email just really was, our postal mail was really difficult to get through. It didn't really drop off as much as you might expect, but it stayed consistent in terms of its drop down. But the email just, as you can see here, shot through the roof. And today they're receiving well over 300 million pieces of, 300 million emails. And that's just an incredible number. So the take-home message there is simple. They get lots of email. And some might say, when you get that much communication, then you have no communication. But we'll see what the study here says. But as you can imagine, that's a lot of emails. On the next one, we'll talk about the effects on the internet on Congress. And the question here was, please indicate the extent to which you agree or disagree that email and the internet have, and then they've set up a series of questions here. Staff reports that basically the quantity and the ease, when they're talking about questions related to quantity and ease, I think you'd expect that, and there are, of course, they're reporting that that's, of course, increasing. But when they look down to actually responsiveness and quality, I've got a plus here, but I'd actually say that would be a negative here in terms of the responsiveness. There's in the report, there's a mention, and I'll bring it up later, of a suspicion of some of the email communications that are done by the advocacy groups. But that's a finding there. And then in the next area, though, here's a little bit of good news. What they found here was, in terms of influence, they found that they're all hovering around 90% here of having at least some influence. That if you had individualized postal letters, that's the old school stuff, and then individualized email messages and individualized faxes, for those who even remember faxes anymore. I know some associations are putting out, they try to put out some alerts through fax systems, and sometimes try to clog those fax machines as a strategy. But what I guess back to the good news part here is that they are still influential to do that. But there's a key word in there, of course, and that is individualized. So when these methods are used and they are individualized, they tend to be reported as at least somewhat influential. So that's what I just said. Most forms of the communication that are effective are individualized. The next slide shows the influences on members' decision making. So this is when a person has not decided yet on a piece of legislation or action, and asking them, if your member hasn't decided yet, how influential are various forms of contacting you and your member, you and your boss. And so you can see here on the right-hand side, the percentages there on each of these bars is no influence at all. In the middle is somewhat influential, to some influence, and then on the left, of course, is a lot of influence. And that would, of course, be what we would really be shooting for, given how busy all of us are in our daily lives today. Really, what can we get the biggest impact on? But I would say, just as a caveat, I'm going to present what their findings are, what they're telling us. Later I'll talk about what we see as best practices, what's effective, even saying things that aren't, if you try this other thing, we won't think it's effective at all. But anybody telling you that only one thing works and only these other things will never work, as you could tell, at least on here, a 1% or even a 3%, at some level, some of them are working. If you have a lot of time, maybe shoot for those. But given the amount of time we all have, I'd say we're shooting for those that are most effective on the a lot of influence side. The in-person visits, I think maybe some people, I've heard many people that go to in-person visits say that they just don't know that it has any impact at all. So they get a little burnt out about that. I'm not sure your experience is out there, but we do that all the time, in-person visits, and people sometimes walk away wondering, did it do anything? And the good news here, at least, is that it felt that the in-person visits were the most influential. And the biggest part here is on the right-hand side. When they say, no influence at all, I don't know how people said they, given how influential everybody else thought it was. Some people said it actually had no impact at all in some cases. So, and that could be maybe meetings that occurred that maybe weren't well prepared or something like that. So, but the good news is that only 1% said it had no impact at all. So the flip side of this, of course, is that the form approaches were almost never seen as influential, and all non-form approaches were seen as at least somewhat influential in about 90% of the responses. So, for associations like mine, and I know many out there who we try to get some alerts out and inform people and say, maybe click here, send that. That's what we're talking about. So form type of strategies are found here and said to be the least influential. So lesson to myself, lesson to other associations, other groups as well, that that's just the least effective a way to do things. So maybe we'll all get better this year. What the take-home message, I think we just covered that. What staff want in the communications. So this is what the staff are really needing. So some of the basics here are the demographics, right? So staff are needing something out of us as well, and they want contact information, specific legislation, so they can drill down to what you're asking for, bill number and title, impacts on the community, your community. What they're looking for, of course, also, you probably know this, is are you a constituent? So you hold a higher level of attention from the legislators, from your representatives, if you're in fact a constituent of theirs. Sometimes they find out you're not, they might even try to push you off to whoever your representative is, and that might be okay, but it might not be okay because you're there to address something that's in their committee, and they're technically representing everybody in their position on a committee. But so this slide here just highlights what they're really needing, and I think the part that's important to them is status of well, important on the slide is that the status of the bill and indication of whether or not you've done your search on what they're doing and that kind of thing. Your knowledge of their position evidently didn't hold to be all that powerful in terms of what they really needed to get out of you right away. So I think that's of interest to us, that maybe we don't need to spend all that much time on proving that we've done that kind of homework, at least at that initial level. And then the other part is summary of the bill and those kinds of things. Maybe they'll do their own homework. So that's a little bit less. So here's the thing, though, that is really suspect, or at least drive an exclamation point home for us on our form strategies for associations and groups that are out there advocating, is that The staff view on form communications, they asked them, they said most identical form communication campaigns are sent without the constituents' knowledge or approval. They asked this question to the staff, and this is their response. So half of the people there believed that the people sending these email messages or these form responses didn't even know about them, so almost done without their knowledge at all, which means that they think they're fake. So at least that's what the response would say. So that, of course, should make us all have some pause. Implications for citizens and grassroots communities overall here is quality. Of course, quality is more persuasive than quantity. So I know a lot of us get a little upset if we can't generate the big numbers, but really I think maybe what we should be looking at is the committed folks that are really willing to express how they feel about something and get in there and talk to their representatives in a quality kind of way. There were other indications up there, but I didn't touch on this too much, but the organization behind the grassroots campaign matters to the staffers. There was quite a few mentioned in there about they want to know if it is a campaign, they want to know who the association is that's behind it. They want to be able to get to them and follow up on the topic with them, thinking that they've got maybe more information, or that they or they're accountable to the campaign as an association. Grassroots organizations should develop better understanding of Congress is another thing that the staffers felt. That didn't come up in what I presented, but that was in there. And there's a difference between obviously being noticed and having an impact at all. Then in general, they did a larger survey out there. They surveyed 10,000 citizens. And of the 10,000 citizens they surveyed, almost half of them, adults, had contacted a member in Congress within the last 5 years. So that's a lot of contact going on and stepping it up in terms of the amount of communication. What the quality is you saw already, though. So majority do not believe Congress is interested. This is of the constituents. They don't believe that Congress is interested in what they have to say, but they are spending time at least to forward an email. So if our constituents, people that we're working with, are not feeling that the people they're contacting care about what they have to say, they may not take that extra time to send those personalized kind of notes. Because I know many of us say, here's a form letter, please adjust it to your own situation, that kind of thing. But many people still point at something and click it and send it off. And this is probably why. Most want members to keep them informed of their views and activities, so they are still wanting that. And the Internet has become the primary method for the communication. Majority of people who contacted Congress had been asked to do so by associations, their groups, somebody outside, somebody else asking them, please contact them, the time is up for something. So that's an overview of the report, Communicating with Congress, and we said we would stop here, and any comments and reflections, questions people had, we would take a little time at this point to open up for that. So Tara, do you want to?
Yeah, so if you have a microphone and you're connected by the computer, just go ahead and raise your hand. Same goes for if you're on the phone. Do the raise your hand feature so that I can unmute you. And if you'd rather send in a question by typing it, you can go ahead and do that now. But if you have any questions for Tony about this kind of research or the impacts or the implications of it in your life or your work, now's the time. So wait a minute. Is there anybody? Okay, Polly, you have the floor. Polly, you there?
Hi.
Hey.
you doing?
Good.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
Good. How are you, Polly?
I am very well. Did this study, by any chance, differentiate between Sacramento and local legislative visits, or was it just done at the state level?
That's a good question. This was done. This is a congressional project, so they did look only, and the staffers were only staffers in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So they weren't even staffers in local offices, from what I can tell.
Okay.
But I have talked to a couple of staffers in people that have worked in the Capitol, and it does still ring true to their experience. That's anecdotal, but no, it did not. Didn't have the specific target on Sacramento, or even any state. It's Congress.
It was Congress. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. We have a question from Linda. Linda, are you there?
Can you hear me?
We can.
My question is, Tony, I received a call, although it was local, from it could have been the California Department of Forestry, saying that they were concerned about the budget cut, and then they listed the reasons that they were concerned and how it would affect me, and they said, "Do you agree?" And I said yes. They said, "Well, then you would be willing to talk to your state senator," and I said yes. And then the phone rings, and that office answers for my state senator. So I had just heard what I should say, and my aging memory allowed me to be able to say what I was concerned about. Have you heard of the use of that tool at all?
Yeah, I have. I've heard of that. I heard it's a little expensive. It's usually done by bigger organizations. That's just what I've heard. I haven't actually checked into that. But you could see they're trying to get at making something as easy as the point and click, and yet once they get across there, the staffers in the office are seeing that as a direct contact, and it's going to be personal. So
because I remember a long time ago there was an effort put out when we were just doing things by fax machines that they had given, like here in L.A. County, they'd given us all the time. It was like SC50 way back in the early 90s. All of us, the number of the governor's office here in L.A. County, and they call in and say, "We want you to vote no on SC50 because it affects folks with developmental disabilities." And so by the time I got them to answer, they kept saying, "Who's having you call?" So this was it sort of reminded me of that, but I wanted to know if we got, and you answered that, thank you, that we got the personal contact piece then, right?
Yeah. But so if it rings true, we know that the responses from the staff were they want to know. They want to know who's doing these campaigns, and they want to know that this is an entity that is generating some responses from people, and when the responses are going to be of that quality, it's going to make a bigger difference as well. So it was important to the staff to know who that is. So I wouldn't be afraid of that, but the fact that it is customized, that it's a personal position that the advocate is taking, it has a bigger role.
Right. Yeah, and I was also wondering if they targeted areas like mine that are prone to high fire danger. So, I mean, if you pick those out and call those folks, we would be more apt to stay on the phone and, respond.
Oh, yeah. I have no idea how those work. I think that's out of my budget.
You have to partner with somebody, leverage your resources.
Yes. That's for this, too. I'll cover that as well.
Are there any other questions from the audience about this at this point? Okay.
Okay, good.
Oh, wait. Actually, we have one more hand. Hold on a second. Raymond. Raymond, you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey.
Thanks, Tara. Hello, Tony. Raymond from Sacramento here. Everything sounds great and everything, but right now it's, even looking in California and even nationally here, everything seems to be all the votes seem to be along party lines. And trying to influence somebody to make that step across the party line seems to be feeling futile at the moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure. The issue of them wanting to know the association, some associations, I'd probably say most, get linked to some kind of party line at some point. And it really is so important for all of us to not get locked into a party line. I mean, for one, we're not partisan. Most of us, I think all of us are, at least most of us are 501c3s. We're not taking positions on political parties and that kind of thing. And in our issue, we're one of the few that our issue is completely nonpartisan.
Right.
So that again is critical. So I think what you're bringing up is a reminder to groups like mine, to not get tagged as partisan either way, no matter what. We work with both sides of the aisle. And then the other part is, if you're going to be able to give a personalized testimony about it, that can't even, that wouldn't be partisan. That would be your own personal story. If it was an association that is heavily tagged as partisan and they're doing a form communication, then the entire thing is going to look partisan. So it's a really good point.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Raymond. Are there any other questions at this time? If not, we will move forward, and then there will be more opportunities later to ask questions too. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so why don't you go ahead, Tony?
Okay, good. I'm going to look at my time real quick. Okay, good. This is a picture of Annie and Joe, two friends of mine, self-advocates, and you probably all know the guy in the middle. Just have it there because it's a great picture. But the next section here is just more strategy kind of points. In Congress and probably in the state as well, I'm not sure about how much time, but 90% of their time in Washington, D.C. is spent in committees. So where a lot of their focus or their work is going to be. If your representative serves on one of these committees that are here in yellow, this is what we tend to focus on in D.C. in our work at the ARC, and I know a lot of others as well. I know at Family Voices there's a lot of national advocacy work too. So these are sort of the primary areas that we will also look at areas like judiciary, and I've seen some that you wouldn't expect, but those in yellow are the basic committees that they're working in. And again, 90% of their time is there, so they're going to be working on issues that are coming up in those areas. Many of the items that we work on get covered in there. The staff like to know ahead of time what our positions would be on items that they're going to be going to have to cover later. So it is a good chance to get their interest because it's a little heightened if it's an item that's going to be coming through their boss's committee. In Congress or in the state, we have, again, items could be covered in different committees, but these are the ones that we primarily look at in our association, in the Senate and in the Assembly. And again, knowing what's coming through those committees helps in heightening their attention, the attention of the staff and the attention of the legislator to the issues that you're going to talk about, especially if they're coming through these committees. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on process. This is not about process, but the reason I have these here is to think about timing your efforts. So I know a lot of folks say to me, and I've had complaints at different times about maybe doing too much, too many calls to action. You're wearing us out, that type of a thing, and it would happen if and when we make the mistakes, I think, on the statewide level or national level of not saying where we are in the process, and even if we are saying it to be clear, is it early on in the process? Is it midway through? Is it late? And then even down to the specifics of where we are in the process, because action is needed at this moment, a vote's coming up, and then we need some activity to happen, some engagement out there in the grassroots to make things happen. And then we may ask it a similar thing again later, and you may wonder, well, why do you keep asking for the same thing? And just being clear that there's activity needed at the different stages in this process. And as you could tell here, the left is the federal process, and on the right is the state. And there are so many different things. And these are the things, if everything just moves smoothly, beautifully, this would happen like this. You could probably put contingency lines in here in red, and it would probably, you wouldn't see any white background here, because there's so many different weird things that happen. But this is just the point of this one is to time your efforts, and let the people know, let everybody know where we are in the process, so when you have to ask again, they don't feel like we're bombarding them. Another way to target messages is to think about what's their self-interest of our representatives and our staff, and their staff, I mean. But there are caucuses in Congress. There are a variety of interest groups that gather, informal groups there. And then the House disability-related caucuses include the Bipartisan Disability Caucus. There's a Coalition on Autism Research, Cerebral Palsy, the FASD Caucus, Long-Term Care, and Congressional Down Syndrome Caucus. So the point here is any items that you have, they're going to be specific here. You know, if your member is here, they're going to have a special interest and a self-interest in hearing what you have to say related to these areas. In the state, a few things listed up on here. There's the autism and related disorders from the Senate side, and there are a series of local committees that are happening in district offices from people on that committee. So, and they're gathering more and more information, bringing it back together at the state level later this year. Disaster and emergency response, of course, is important to us. It should be important to that committee, and if it's not on the radar, they should know why it's important to our community. And that goes with other committees as well that we might not even think of. The Alcohol and Drug Abuse, Select Committee on Disabilities, and then there's a workforce within our community, a special select committee there as well. So point there is just more ways to target your message to people who you know already have a targeted interest. This slide here is about recruiting your messenger, and set up a pecking order here of what the staff were looking for. We already saw earlier what they thought of how influential just a straight-up meeting with paid lobbyists were. Many of us have them. We have them here, and I'll confess I'm one as well. But that's sort of that's the bottom line. It's easy for these people to get into the building. They have a lot of relationships, and they make things happen. But just them alone is only going to get you just so far. Providers, next level. This is a person that actually could be it could be seen also as an advocate, which is the next level up. But providers, you'll notice on the earlier slide about business people, if it's a constituent in an area, they've got an understanding of a business practice, and sometimes that also grabs their attention as well. There was some mention of that in the study as well. Advocates that will listen to, and in all instances, or most instances I should say, the person or the people that the program related to government is designed to serve and support is the one who has the highest level. So in terms of recruiting the messenger, think through that the pecking order on that diagram there. Next slide is don't work alone. That's one thing that we really believe in at the ARC. I think a lot of other organizations do. We have a coalition we work with, Partners in Policymaking, with a great group of different groups, family voices, California is on that, and the Family Resource Centers and the Empowerment Centers, People First. It's a great coalition, and really, you diversify your skills, you bring other contacts in, and then, of course, with different associations, you've got different people, and then that's a number. So really, our National Association, I think others as well, strongly believe this, and we just need to not be working in a vacuum. And I know sometimes it's easier to do that, but really, our recommendation is not. On the national level, there is a consortium. It's called the CCD, the Consortium for Citizens with Disabilities. We work in this consortium along with about 100 other national organizations, disability organizations. Great way to spread out the work. They break out in different committees and recommend public policy and do actions, and the items get pushed down to the different coalitions as well. That one is a really great example of a national consortium of people banding together. There are all kinds of coalitions statewide. A big one that we work in is called the Lanterman Coalition. It's a coalition to preserve the Lanterman Act. There are 12 statewide associations connected there. And try to do what we can to come to common ground so we're not fighting, and that we can achieve the preservation of the Lanterman Act as best as possible. Some years were more successful than others, and last year everybody suffered there. But it does help in spreading out the word and getting the other associations to commit to the same kind of topics. Learn about your members' personal connections. Back in the area of self-interest. So in Congress, we've had several champions, Kennedy and Harkin. There have been others. In California, we've had a few years back, we had a coalition of family members. The California Disability Services Association really worked hard on putting that and keeping that together, and they did really good work. But knowing what their interests are and how they're connected to our community, and then just keeping that going. People act in their own self-interest, and that's not judgment. That's just the way things are. Other opportunities, looking for more ways to communicate and connect to the policymakers and inviting them to programs or events. If you're with an advocacy group and you're doing an event, getting them there and getting the media to be there too at the same time is very, very important. They'd like to be seen in their local papers doing, making these connections to you. They need you as much as you might need them at different times. And voting, can't tell you, of course, that has its own session there. Voting is so critical, and we are the largest group of eligible voters who do not vote. That's the disability community. It's a huge problem for us. And then participate in campaigns where you can. That's just getting involved in the system. And that has all kinds of restrictions involved, as you probably all know that. We won't get into that, but I put a link in here. You'll get this if you want to learn more about those restrictions to watch out for. Follow-up is so critical. Follow-through is the chariot of genius. This was by the Chief of Staff for Steny Hoyer in Congress, and it was at a session we were at, and he was talking about following up with a thank you. People's time, everybody's using up each other's time. Thank you for that. And confirming those conversations. They have a lot of conversations. Confirming those commitments, very critical. And then asking for help, asking to help, and asking for help. And one of the things that our great friend Marty Emoto has been talking about more and more, and is so critical. It's a great new strategy that we're all trying to get better at, is making them more accountable by asking them, what are we going to do now? You've made these decisions. How does this particular problem get addressed? You've got to fix it for us. You've got to tell us how it gets addressed. We won't go away, or we'll come back in a week and find out what you came up with. So asking to help, and the other adding here is asking for help as well. The other part, another tip here, is it's not year-round, and this is very important. If they can expect you to only show up once a year, then it'll be very easy for them to ignore us. So knowing that we're going to keep coming back, and we're not always going to be asking for something. Sometimes we're going to be informing, giving, and also that there's different ways of getting them what they need to meet their self-interest, publicity, awards, whatever else that you think of that keep that engagement going. In Congress, and actually local legislators as well, will have town hall meetings. This is very important to get to these things. And especially for our community, you probably look in this room and may not see anybody with an intellectual developmental disability, but it would be so important if we have more people that showed up in these meetings, because a lot of people that show up to these meetings are anti-government and don't see a reason for government support in many ways. So at least there's some voices for some support. And then sign up for alerts. There's all kinds of ways that people are communicating today, and really, if you're not on any of these things yet, it's time to try it, try to get yourself out there. Facebook, YouTube, all of these different things that are out there, social networking, Web 2.0, different ways of finding out what's important to their representatives. Here's a real handsome picture of David, my representative, and he has an email list. And now in his email list, he tells you where he's going to go, be, and some things that are important to him and things that have happened. And I've also seen people email him back and give him some suggestions or constituency comments and stuff like that. So quite a few of them do this, and they really want their constituents on these lists. So they feel like they've got a lot of people who voted for them that are their constituents, and they want to get that all out there, that information. It's great for us because we hear what's important to them and see where we might have some shared interests at different times. The other ones is they'll do a little more detailed stuff, and just like many agencies do, newsletters and things like that, these guys all do that kind of reporting. And it goes back again to them communicating to you what's important to them. They think that they're doing something that you want them to do, and it's expressed in their newsletters. These are really simple things to join on to. My guy here, McClintock, he's a Twitterer, and you can become a fan of these guys. A lot of them have these accounts, and very easy way to see what they're doing. And you can, on some of them, you can put your own remarks on there. We actually have the governor following us. He started following us during last year's session. I'm not really sure if that's good or bad, but you know, it's another way of communicating. Flickr is another way, and they just put the pictures out there, tell you what they're doing. Again, it's what's important to them, things that they're doing that they're proud of, that they put that out there. Next slide here is called the Advocacy Do's and Don'ts. And it's real simple do's and don'ts, but I usually have this by me, just a little quick reminder. But very simple ideas, but good reminders. You know, you make that appointment. We're talking about, you know, that visit being the most influential. If that's going to be the most influential, you also may recall that 1% of those meetings were not influential at all. Well, maybe it was the one that you didn't make that appointment to. You just dropped in, and maybe you were late, and you weren't on time. You just dropped in, and you were really confrontational, and you know, you didn't build a rapport, that kind of thing. So let them know why you want to visit. Map that out. Let them be prepared is a great way to go. Again, if it's going to be something real specific that you want to get them working on, maybe you want to hold off on a lot of the details, but you want to talk about, let's say you want to talk about what's happening in in-home sports services, and you're actually going to say to them, you know, what are you going to do about this? How am I going to have this particular need addressed? You may not map all that out, but you want to talk about in-home sports services, and then get into what you're going to be asking for after you put out your situation to them. Personalizing the issue, course, very critical. We talked about that already. It's got to be, it can't be form. And the other part in here, number 6, very, very important. They talk about how your credibility is the most important thing you have. And if you're a part of a group or representing a group of others, it's even more important. But that your credibility, you need to keep that in check. Make sure your data is reliable. Sometimes there might be disagreement with what you think is a fact, as long as you've got some data to back that up or references for that, some reasonable reason why you think a certain way. But that's very important in there, and do not give that incorrect information on purpose, even on accident if you can avoid it. Provide names of people who can be resources, and leave written summary of your positions. Sometimes they like those. They'll use them as references. The picture idea is always very, very nice. They like to take pictures with constituents. I know in D.C., I've seen it here. I know a lot of people in the state offices when they do that. It's kind of a nice thing. Sometimes they'll put it on their Flickr, and they'll know that you might put it on yours, or your whatever, Facebook or whatever that you have out there. Thank you letters, again, that's the follow-up idea. And then, arrange for the member to meet with other people, so to keep that going, so it's not a once a year, and have other write letters as well. So ignoring the member is number 11, don'ts, and number 12. So really driving home that point that you're not just a once a year kind of meeting that you're dealing with folks. It's a continual relationship and a process. And it's a professional relationship, not a personal one. It's professional and it's friendly as it needs to be. It's professional, and if it needs to be confrontational, try not to do it up front in the first meeting in particular. How am I on time here? I'm 10 till. We said we would stop at 10 till. I have several other slides that would be there for people that are on the call. Well, when we send this out, you'll have these as well, and you can feel free to ask me any questions about any of them. They don't make sense because they are PowerPoint slides, and they just follow in here after the few tips. And this is a picture, just so you know, of Ronald Reagan signing. So, Tara, this is 10 till right now.
Yeah.
Probably we said we would stop for more.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and open up the discussion again. So go ahead and do the raise your hand feature or submit questions by typing them. Let's see, we have a comment from Linda. Linda, there.
Hi, Tony, Linda again.
Hello, Linda again.
We really have done a lot of talking among ourselves about just the sheer exhaustion of alerts. And I really liked the little maps of how legislation happens. And it would be great if we could come up with a little glyph or something that would be, like the digestive system. This is how this gets digested. And so just would show that you responded here, and in a 10-step process, we're at 8 now. So you could look at it and get an immediate idea of how it's gone along the line. It would give you an idea that what you've done has made progress, but there's still more to do. Just some way, sort of like, I don't know if you were there when we did the thing with partners in policy making, where we, gave them those placards and they kept moving along on how a bill moves through. So I think if we could do something like that, that people would at least, one, be encouraged because it has moved, two, it reminded them that, that they had participated before and that it had an effect.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You see these things when the grocery stores or people are doing a drive, right? A fund drive or something. They have this thermometer thing.
Right.
You might even think about doing a thermometer thing, like we're asking you to act here at the critical point, and on the bottom here, this thermometer thing. You're in this part of the process where we're getting closer, or we're at a critical halfway mark, or that kind of thing. That might be a nice easy visual for people to see, and then to really get that we're asking you to act, but there's going to be more needed later on if this is successful.
Right, because sometimes when you get them when they seem to be back to back, you go, well, I already responded to this, but it switched over to either the House of Representatives or in their process. So if there could be something that we could develop that all of us in this community could use, that would be great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Are there other questions or comments? Anybody else out there? Let's see. Tony, I had one question. In terms of customizing those action alerts to make them, because it is often that we're all so busy. It's hard to get down to your legislator's office, or it's hard to, bring out the paper and write them a letter. And so you get the action alerts a lot by email, and it's really quick. But if you're going to make them effective, now we know that we have to make them individualized. Do you have any ideas about how to do that?
Yeah. I've been thinking more and more, especially after we first start reading through this, of what we can do. We're always asking people to please customize. I don't think we're really spending a lot of time saying why it's so important to customize. I know we're clearly not communicating these findings to people that we're sending alerts to. That only 1%. 1% of the staff think that this might be effective at all if you send this off. I think that would really scare people off from doing those point and clicks at all. But the only thing I've been thinking about is more of those phone calls, although we never get the kind of numbers that we get when we do the point and click. But again, we're knowing that it's not necessarily quantity, so maybe that's okay. The other is that when we do send those, it's just some way to express how important that is, that personal touch. And it doesn't have to be a lot, because I understand people are going to say, okay, if I have time, I'll do that. But if you say, it's going to take you 5 minutes of your time, jot down a couple of personal things of why this is important to you, and then the ones that I've found that are helpful to have a whole bunch of bullet points of things that might apply to people, and some results of a budget deal going a certain way, or a bill passing. The bill would do this or this or this, and those things could mean this for family members. It could mean that, and then in the ask, that's what we would say. And if any of those bullet points apply to you, can you please tell them why? Mm-hmm. And just express why it's important in there somehow that it be personalized. Mm. That's what we're going to be starting to work on more and more in this year, and hopefully it will. It might not increase our numbers, but maybe it'll increase our quality and our ability to impact decisions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Give people a moment. You can always type in. Let's see.
Almost like confessions.
I know, right?
I got to apologize to everybody. But good thing is everybody's been doing it, so we're all in the same.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I don't think, looks like we don't have any other questions at the moment.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, I will, I sent this to you.
Yes, right? And we will send this out, and we will make the PowerPoint available on our website. We've also been taping today. It's like a Windows media file, so if you have staff member or families or friends who would be interested, they'll be able to see it on our website later. As a follow-up to today's call, everyone will receive a survey by email. Please take the time to complete the online survey. It helps us keep this program going. And if you're interested in more action alerts and other items coming your way, please sign up on our listserv. You can find it from our website. And thanks so much to Tony for being on today's call, and thank everybody on the call. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at Family Voices. And keep an eye out for our next training on the importance of collecting culturally competent data. And with that, I think we will sign off. Thanks to everyone. And thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks.